Kings, Queens, and In-Betweens, welcome back to City Boys Extra Time. We are here to recap Matchday 14, where Chicago knocked off Charlotte 4-1, Houston beat Dallas 2-0, and we featured a midweek matchup between San Jose and Inter Miami that finished 3-all. Before we get into all that, though, let me introduce ourselves. My name is Ethan Thornton, and I am joined by two of my best friends in the whole wide world, Bearded Mr. Clean and Jacob. Grayson, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I was just putting this stream on my phone, and I almost sent it into like SOS emergency mode. I almost called the police. They gotta
Alert, the
know
City
that
Boys are
we're
streaming.
starting the episode now. So yeah, I'm pretty hyped to be here. Honestly, my end of the MLS this week is pretty interesting. A lot of draws this week. St. Louis would be very familiar. But sadly, we didn't get a draw this week. We'll get more into that later, but I'm out here. It's a
Well,
nice Monday.
technically, we got a draw this week.
That is true. That is true. But it's a pretty gloomy day out here in Colombia. We're starting to get the rainstorms that are coming in. So yeah. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing good. Had a fantastic weekend despite the result. Finally got my haircut, if you can't tell. Fresh
Ooh,
haircut. Hung out with
on the
Grayson
best.
this weekend at a crawfish bowl.
Roll for a boy.
Had a good time. First time I played bags in years, bro, and I missed it so much.
We got into it. It was a good couple rounds. I'm pretty bad.
Midwest culture is slept on, and bags is one of those things that you typically really only find in the Midwest, and it is
Calling
a
it
great
bags and
time.
not cornhole is extremely Missouri of you.
Well, it is bags.
You do play with the bags.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it was a fire weekend in the MLS, and I'm excited to cover it. How are you, Ethan?
Gentlemen, I've had better Mondays as far as things are concerned. Got pretty much no sleep last night. Had a terrible migraine, but I'm feeling better tonight, and I am excited to feel up to recapping the MLS. This morning when I woke up, I honestly wasn't sure. So I'm really excited to be here, excited to be talking with you guys.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we got two match days to cover because we did have a midweek matchup that, we did talk about the St. Louis one a little bit, but we haven't really talked about much else. So we can go ahead and start off the episode, I think, by we'll just quickly gloss over those matches. There was a couple pretty crazy score lines, honestly. Jacob, you want to take us through those scores for
Yeah.
Wednesday?
So on your screen right now is our interconference, and we're gonna get deep into those games from both Wednesday and this weekend. But as far as overall Wednesday night coverage goes, I'm just gonna rip through it. So you had a 0-0 draw between DC United and New York City FC, another 1-1 draw between Montreal and Columbus. Kind of a great result for Montreal, all things considered.
No kidding.
Orlando would beat Charlotte 3-1, which also is a great result for Orlando. Philadelphia, which we will get into it later, makes an amazing comeback on LA Galaxy to take that match 3-2. Cincinnati would beat Toronto 1-0. Houston would beat Minnesota 2-0, which, for those of you who've watched the Minnesota game, that's a great result for Houston. Nashville would win 2-1 against New York Red Bulls. I would probably have picked Nashville before watching this match, so the result makes sense to me. St. Louis would draw Kansas City 2-2. Austin would draw Atlanta 1-1. RSL would draw Portland 0-0. LAFC would dominate Seattle 4-0. San Diego would take the match against Colorado 2-0. And then San Jose and Miami with an electric 3-3 draw. And that was
Yeah,
all she
so
wrote.
weirdly enough, there was two teams that missed out in this match week. So their game is actually going to be played in September, and that would be Chicago Fire versus the New England Revolution. So they just got the bye week, I guess. So good for them. It did actually go to pay off for Chicago. So
That's a
yeah,
very nice job.
I don't think they're complaining very much.
I wouldn't be.
But yeah, what do we think? Major score lines from the midweek matchups. What do you got, Ethan? What do you think?
I was really surprised about LAFC and Seattle. I think that's been a pretty powerhouse matchup in the Western Conference since LA entered the league. And I thought that Seattle would put in a better performance. I think that does not really speak to their quality, but it does speak to the quality of LAFC. Jacob, you mentioned as well Orlando versus Charlotte. That is a great result for Orlando. Charlotte started off the season so strong, and that was their fourth loss in a row. We're going to talk more about Charlotte after we recap Matchday 14. However, that is definitely a noteworthy result for Orlando as the season goes on. We've talked about Austin being fraudulent so far this season, and another one goal performance from the squad. I believe that was Brandon Vasquez's free kick against Atlanta.
Yes.
They didn't score against Vancouver, so it had to be. Yeah, Atlanta is also really struggling this season. For Austin not to just take this one and handle their business, I think says a lot about them. It's disappointing. We will see how Austin pans out so far this season, but yeah, a lot of actions in the midweek. I was impressed, disappointed by St. Louis City's result in the middle of the week, but we move.
We do move, and we're going to move straight into this Saturday's Western Conference matchups for the week, and I think that is Grayson.
That would be me. And yeah, we got a little bit to cover, but a lot of them were honestly draws in the Western Conference this week. So we had Austin FC coming up against Vancouver, 0-0 draw. This is a good result for Austin FC. I'll break that one down in a little bit. Minnesota gets 3 past St. Louis as St. Louis travels to Minnesota. Not a great game for St. Louis. Dallas would fall to Texas rivals Houston. Houston in a hot form after finally getting their streak of wins here, beating Vancouver last week, beating Dallas this week. I'm very excited for them. I think they're a good team, and things are starting to look around. So we'll see how long they can keep that up. We got Colorado beating Real Salt Lake 1-0. Portland and Seattle tying 1-1 in honestly a shootout to start the match.
Great Cascadia Cup.
San Diego FC going on to face Sporting Kansas City, and Sporting would earn a 0-0 draw here. Pretty impressive, honestly. And then to round out, we had El Tráfico with a 2-2 draw. Pretty exciting stuff. Let's circle back to the top because I want to start off with what is going on in Vancouver, because that's 2 matches in a row that their offense has been blanked. I saw Vancouver mention that their team just looked really lazy this week. I think maybe the amount of matches is starting to get to them. Brian White has not had a lot of rest this year, and to his credit, he should not be off the field. This man is scoring left and right. So, you can't really blame the manager for not selecting him. But they did say, Jaden Nelson started on the bench this week. So when he did come on, he brought some life back into the game. But yeah, Austin really took it to him. This match, it was really all Austin. They controlled the game, had many chances, but Takeoka, the goalkeeper for Vancouver, had a man of the match performance, of course, to keep him out. Good shouts for Bukhari again. Great game from him, but yeah, no one was really able to get through there. So interesting one for Vancouver here to see what they can do to bring some freshness. I think their offense is probably just getting a little stale. They just need a little breather right now. Let's see. I'm sure you might have something to say about this match, but Minnesota 3-0 versus St. Louis. Jacob and I were, in the heat of the crawfish boil at the time. So, we took a little bit of time away from bags to watch the game on my phone, but it was just brutal. STL controlled a lot of the possession this game, which was interesting. We can do that from time to time, but what little chances we did create, they weren't necessarily super quality. Keeper was able to get down and stop him, but Minnesota would score three through Tani Oluwaseyi, man of the match, Joaquin Pereira, and Julian Gressel to finish out the score there. So 3-0. It's getting really toasty in St. Louis. The hot seats are getting hotter. It's an interesting time to be a St. Louis fan.
People are getting unruly, no doubt. They are calling for heads, and depending on the result on Wednesday in the Open Cup, when we run it back, I would not be surprised if people are finally out in the streets for Olaf's head.
Oof. Oof. Moving on, we've got the Texas Derby. I don't remember the name of this Derby. There probably is a better one than just the Texas Derby. But Houston going on to beat Dallas. And this match, the first big chance of the match would come from Julio, who's in real hot form for FC Dallas. And he almost catches out Jonathan Bond from beyond half field. He almost gets him, but Bond gets back in time to tip it over the crossbar. And we've been saying it over and over and over, and we called it. Jack McGlynn was going to score a banger, and he would. To open the scoring, he beams it outside the box. Just a rocket. Definitely my nominee for goal of the week. It's just beautiful. Another player in very, very good form is Griffin Dorsey, the right back from Houston, after having, I think, a 2-assist performance a couple weeks ago to getting his own goal today, or I guess not today, on Saturday. Plays a little 1-2, bets on himself, picks out the far post. Another beautiful goal there. Colorado would beat Real Salt Lake 1-0, and this game was very, very close, and Colorado, it was probably going to be 0-0 until Jordi Mihailovic just high pressure in the box. I don't remember. I think it might have been Reggie Cannon that steals the ball like in the 6-yard box from a defender who's trying to clear it, and Jordy just slots it home, barely, point blank range.
Where would Colorado be without
Good
Jordan
victory for Colorado.
Mihailovic?
They would be bad. But Jordy is just that guy. He can just carry a team. Doesn't matter. Portland, Seattle. This is a very good matchup. I was expecting more than 1-1, honestly, from this game. It started out with a shootout because there was, I think, 5 or 6 shots just off target, and then Albert Rusnak would start off the goals, picking out the bottom left corner, beating Kropo from outside the box. Portland responds minutes later with a beautiful worked team goal in transition. DaCosta slots it in to Santi Moreno. So second goal in 2 weeks. He's getting hot.
Yeah, those are two very good players that Portland has on their hands. David DaCosta is an electric player, and an Evander replacement is tough. Those are big, big shoes to fill, but I think he is well on his way.
Oh yeah, he's doing great. Portland after they kind of had a slow start at the beginning of the season. First couple matches they weren't really connecting, but now that they've really found their chemistry, they're looking really good. But the end of this match, neither team was able to find that special spark to finish off the match. Ended 1-0 or 1-1. So nothing crazy. I think both sides would be, reserved with the 1-1. They'll take it. A team that I'm sure is not happy with a draw this week is San Diego, as they were heavily favored to win this match against Kansas City this week. Against the Kansas City Scrubs, that's what I had written down, actually. But they were able to shut down Andres Dreyer and Lozano. There was a good performance in the back line for San Diego, but their offense just really wasn't able to create, wasn't able to beat man of the match. What's the name of KC's goalkeeper?
Pulskamp.
Yeah,
again
Pulskamp.
with him.
Pulskamp again, dude. Another good game from him to to earn the clean sheet there and hold off San Diego. But of course, the news are all stolen by El Trafico this weekend because LA would really kind of stun LAFC a little bit. Royce would knee in a rebound to start off the scoring in the 6th minute. And it was a little exciting. I mentioned to my dad, it would be absolutely insane for LA Galaxy to get their first win of the season in the El Trafico this far into the season. That would be absurd, but it would be canceled out shortly by another goal of the week nominee. Denny Bawanga hit a pisser from, I don't know, got to be 40 yards out, top bins. It was just insane.
Missile.
Nice little front flip too. Just a little dirty. It was dirty. And then a player that Ethan actually just made a TikTok about, Ryan Hollingshead would pick out Nathan Ordaz with a clean little through ball. He finishes it with ease, makes it 2-1. And just as LAFC looks to close out the match, there's a foul outside of the box. And Marco Royce steps up, shows that class is permanent, slots home a beautiful goal of the week nominee as well. A free kick to the top bins. Just clinical. So Royce with a brace definitely gets a player of the week shout for sure. But that would cover the Western Conference. Let's take a peek at the Western Conference table real quick. See what's going on over there. Seemingly out of form, Vancouver Whitecaps are still sitting out top in first place. Minnesota, with their win, is in second. San Diego, Portland, LAFC. LAFC is climbing the table now that they've got a couple wins under their belt. Let's see who they beat us, and then they beat Seattle, and then they beat Houston. Oh wait, they drew us. I forgot they drew us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Felt
they're
like
climbing.
a loss.
They're climbing up there. It did feel like a loss, honestly.
They're catching fire, though. A 4-0 victory over Seattle and a come from behind. Well, yeah, because they went down 1-0 and nearly snatched 3 points. They should have beat LA Galaxy in all fairness, but I think they'll be satisfied with that.
I got a feel for Austin, though, from third place to ninth place in just a couple of weeks. It's a steep drop off, but
No, that seems about right for them.
Yeah, fraud watch Austin.
Yeah, fraud watch. I think they're probably in their correct spot now. They can get back up. They're a good side, but something's not there. So, but yeah, I think Houston, they're finding their feet here, 2 wins in a row. So I'd like to see where they're going. Salt Lake just can't seem to figure it out.
If it's not coming from Diego Luna, it's not coming from anywhere for RSL at the moment. I don't know who else could carry on their team to the level that he has. I don't think they have that great of a squad, and for them to have 4 wins this season, I think is something to be proud of for them.
Yeah, and then closing it out, of course, you got the Midwest siblings, KC, St. Louis City, just adrift at the bottom. We're not as bad as LA Galaxy, at least. But LA Galaxy's got some excitement happening. They're fun to watch. So
Yeah, not being as bad as LA Galaxy is just really poor.
yeah, that's my consolation trophy this season is at least we're not LA. But then again, we're only 2 wins away from LA. So it's scary. Scary margins.
Before we move into the Interconference and then the Eastern Conference games, I want to ask you guys, because it is MLS rivalry week, and I think all of us are in agreement that the barbecue between Sporting Kansas City and St. Louis City is our favorite rivalry to watch. I think I've seen a lot of debate online about the top 5 rivalries. That was somewhat of a storyline in the lead up to this weekend's fixtures. I think El Trafico has been pretty much the consensus number 1. I see you both nodding your heads. It seems like you both agree with that.
Yeah,
It's definitely up there.
Dude, I can just I think it wasn't the first one, was it? No, it was the first one. The first one with Zlatan
It has
winning.
so many iconic MLS moments in general.
Oh yeah, every game just seems to be just football cinema. There's always some crazy shit going on.
I will admit, as far as the MLS is concerned, I have always been an advocate for the Hell is Real Derby. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of just my Midwestern bias because it is so electric and it feels so grassroots, whereas the El Trafico feels Hollywood, for lack of a better description, which makes sense. I will say, though, the limbs and the atmosphere from both games this weekend were amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think nationally Hell is Real is slept on, but if you give it a chance, like now granted because of Hollywood, if you're a neutral supporter, you're probably gonna watch LA versus LAFC, but if they're not on at the same time, do yourself a favor and go watch the Hell is Real rivalry.
For
But
sure.
first, watch the barbecue because the barbecue is also dope. Even though both teams are respectfully ass right now, the game was still fun to watch.
It's
It
always
was.
entertaining. Both teams can't seem to score, but when we play each other, we'll make it happen. So it's a good time.
Somehow,
It's a
some
good
way.
time.
Well, we covered it a little bit early on, but more in depth now is the interconference games that took place. So I picked the San Jose Inter Miami game from the Wednesday matches because it was super, super fun to watch. Miami actually scores in the very first minute of this match on a looping cross from Jordi Alba to the head of one of their center backs, Falcone, and this goal goes in literally the 35th second of the game.
Damn.
And
Brutal.
not long after that, Chicho Arango ties it up. There's a bad play out of the back from Miami's defense. The goalkeeper passes it damn near directly to a San Jose player. The Inter Miami center back wasn't paying attention to the pass coming towards him, was just looking at his man. Goes right by him, gets picked up, passed over to Chicho Arango, who buries it. And that was in, I want to say, the second minute of the match.
Jeez.
Then the Earthquakes would go on to take the lead in the 37th minute with a goal from LaRue. Not Sidney LaRue, but
Slider.
21-year-old Bo LaRue hit a low, powerful shot from outside the 18, 2-1 San Jose at this point. Miami comes back, ties it up with a great goal. It's similar to the goal you were talking about earlier, well-worked team counterattack goal. Messi starts play by playing Jordi Alba over the top. Alba then takes a touch, turns, crosses it into one of my favorite, under-recognized Inter Miami players in Tadio Allende, who
Yep.
first touch bangs it into the back of the net. Game is now 2-2. We're still in the first half, by the way, and this is not the last goal of the first half because deep into stoppage time, Harks would score San Jose's third goal of the match with a clean bottom corner finish. We would then jump to the 56th minute with a low cross, also to Tadio Allende, who buries it for his brace. Then later on, there's flurries of chances both ways for each team. And unfortunately, this game does end in a 3-3 draw. I think both teams deserve to win this match, so a draw is fitting. However, a little bit of bias, I would have liked to see San Jose get the W in this one. We're going to move to Philly LA Galaxy, where once again Galaxy thought they were going to win this game.
Crazy game, dude.
Surprised they didn't. Philly would end up winning this game 3-2, but let's start at the beginning. Quinn Sullivan has a hell of a free kick that's saved in the 14th minute. Honestly, great work by the Galaxy's goalkeeper to keep this one from going in. 15 minutes later, though, Cuevas would give Galaxy the lead with an assist from none other than Marco Royce. 6 minutes later, Royce would give another assist to Diego Fagundes. He hits like a little fake shot, pump fake, hezzy, just taps it over. Diego Fagundes just has to slot it underneath the goalkeeper. Then Glesnes would score on a corner kick in the 48th minute. Then 2 minutes later, Ty Berrybo would bag a game-tying goal on a near-post header. And then despite an insane number of chances for Philly, it would stay tied all the way until stoppage time in the 90th minute +6, where Ty Berrybo again would score another header. And truthfully, it sent Subaru Park into an all-out frenzy. A hilarious statistic is at halftime, the LA Galaxy were a 77% favorite to outright win the match.
Oh no, dude. And they looked like the better side in the first half, to be fair.
Yeah.
I was completely shocked that Los Angeles went to Philadelphia of all places, a hostile atmosphere. We've talked about that multiple times on here, and did the business. They actually showed fire. They showed passion. And
For 45 minutes.
yeah, it just fell off. I think they got maybe a little complacent.
Another great game from Wednesday would be Austin versus Atlanta, 1-1. This was without a doubt a goalkeeper matchup. Like in baseball, how you've got a pitcher's duel. This was for sure a goalkeeper's duel. But Brandon Vasquez would open the scoring in this match in the 55th minute with a hell of a free kick. I have not seen our Goal of the Week nominees. I don't know if it made it in there, but if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's pretty gross. Siani would tie this match, though, in stoppage time with a true FIFA sweat goal. Just 1v1 with the keeper. There's a couple defenders in the box, but 1v1 with the keeper. Just hits a square pass over to the side. All he has to do is tap it into the net. And this game would end 1-1. I do want to emphasize, though, Brad Stuver at 35 and then Brad Guzan. The battle of the Brads. I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier. Both of these older goalkeepers still having fantastic performances like one in this game is something I don't think you really see too often in other leagues. Definitely like other lower leagues that don't have any national coverage, but like as far as being a top flight league, most of your goalkeepers are under the age of 30, if not under the age of 32, and these two guys still doing it. I would honestly put Brad Stuver up there as a goalkeeper of the year contender at this point in the season. Now, while Austin FC has had an inability to score more than one goal, they have also had an incredible ability to only allow one goal, and I think a lot of the credit falls on Stuver's shoulders at that point. Final game I'm going to go through, though, is the New England 0-0 draw versus San Jose, and it's the final game because this is a result for both teams. I think New England probably wanted to get out of there with a W to continue their red-hot form, but they're not going to complain about 3 points off San Jose, who just drew Miami 3-3. Yeah, there's nothing really to write home about this match. It was a 0-0 draw.
A good battle between Bruce Arena's former teams. I think that San Jose has like 7 of the players that were on New England while Bruce Arena was there. So
I would love to see a graphic of if that is the farthest geographical distance between MLS sides.
I want to say it's Miami and Vancouver.
Oh, Miami, Seattle also.
That is
might be up there.
That's a good shout though, Jacob. I'm curious. It's got to be top 5, right?
Has to.
It's up there.
I mean, bottom of California and then like top of Boston. I think that's where New England
couldn't be the more different environments.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But
not a bad result for New England, though. I think they are looking positive as far as things are concerned after their start of the season. They were not looking positive at all as far as I was concerned. I had somewhat written them off as we approached the halfway point of the season. I did not think they would really be finding themselves winning any games, and I think that Carlos Gil really just found that fire once again.
I also think San Jose started to figure it out after their slight drop-off after the first 2 weeks of the season. They had a couple wins, couple losses after that, but it seems to be that San Jose is trending up at the moment, and that's good news for them. They have a really good side, so I'd like to see them do something with it this year.
Yeah, they seem to be maybe a little streaky, so as long as the streak hits when playoffs starts, I think they'll be all right, but it's all about timing.
I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure they're league leaders in goals scored so far this season. If not league
Oh,
leaders, they
they
are
are.
definitely up there. They have scored almost 60 goals or something like that. It's kind of ridiculous just how on fire their attack can be at times. And then 0-0 versus New England. That's it. They're just such an up and down team.
Yeah, they currently are league leaders in goals by 2 ahead of Philly.
How many goals
And
Chicago up
Philly
there?
got?
they have, so San Jose has 29 and Philly has 27 and Orlando has 27.
Oh, okay. Orlando has been on fire this season.
Yep.
Well, speaking of Orlando, gentlemen, they got the better of Inter Miami in their in-state rivalry, and I think they have cemented themselves as a force to be reckoned with in the East as Miami's troubles continue on right now this season. Moving quickly into Montreal, the Canadian Classique, where Montreal would fall 6-1 to Toronto off the back of two different braces for Toronto FC. Just pretty shocking stuff in that game. Montreal did not have a game that reflects that scoreline, in my opinion.
Yeah,
NYC
there was a red card in there too. So I
in
don't
the
know if
20th minute.
that probably was a bit of a factor as well.
Doesn't
Well,
help.
look, I'll put it like this. Yeah, most teams don't need a lot of help against Montreal, and to play for 60, 70 minutes with a man down is not going to help them at all. Into another rivalry, the Hudson River Derby, where NYCFC would actually beat the Eastern Conference finalists last year, the New York Red Bulls, 2-0. And I was not expecting that result. I thought that the Red Bulls would come off their midweek matchup looking to get a good victory, and they could not pull it out. Moving into Hell is Real, it provides us with another MLS classic with big players stepping up on both sides. And I think Columbus shows their resilience to earn a point in this game. It would finish 1-1 between the two sides with maybe the assist of the season to be determined because we're not even halfway through. But Evander with a disgusting bicycle kick assist. Nasty stuff.
Ooh.
Philadelphia versus Atlanta, and Philadelphia walks away with all 3 points as Ty Berrybo continues his goal-scoring form. He's been on another level this season. Atlanta continues to struggle, sliding into second bottom in the East, only above Montreal right now. Insane stuff in Atlanta. They spent so much money this summer just to be
Essentially
around.
bottom of
Right.
the table.
Yeah, I mean, they're not contending for the playoffs right now unless major changes happen there. Another surprising result on the weekend, Charlotte's backslide will continue as they drop their fifth straight game, and Chicago continue their excellent form with their marquee signings coming up massive. Chicago 4, Charlotte 1. Pretty dominant performance as far as all things are considered by Chicago. I was fairly surprised. Their form has been very good as of late. Final game in the Eastern Conference this week, we got Nashville versus DC. The two teams would play to a 0-0 draw. DC was heavily rotated and Nashville was mildly rotated. When Teal Bunbury's starting, that's a rotational game for them. They just could not break the deadlock, and I think this is going to go down as a decent result for DC United. They don't have too much to be positive about so far this season, and that's a decent result against Nashville, who I think is in fourth place in the East right now. They've worked their way into the top of the table after starting with 3 draws in a row or 3 losses. I mean, their turnaround this season has been incredible stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that they're drawn on points with Orlando at the moment, who Orlando's been just steadily fantastic this season. So, you know, it's pretty crazy to see Nashville hanging up there.
Well, it's clear that, in my opinion, Nashville was the better side in this game. They had a lot of set piece chances, and one of those games where you do expect Hani Mukhtar to break through eventually. He is one of those players that the more chances he sees, the more likely he is to score. And frankly, in this game, they just were not clinical enough. I did not see DC with any chances of note, really. Their offense looked like they struggled to build anything, missing Christian Benteke. I think they are going to have questions to be answered when his contract is running up.
Yeah, unfortunately for the crossbar challenge, it does not bode well for us that Christian Benteke has missed so much time. After he wasn't, or DC wasn't on fire to start the year, but Christian Benteke was on fire to start the year.
That's
At
usually
the
how it
very least,
goes.
he was scoring goals, right? And now we don't even have. He's not on the field for us to poke fun at Grayson.
Hey,
Which he's
reaping in.
honestly poking fun at us right now.
Yeah,
I like
you and
Benteke, so I don't like the connotation that I'm rooting for his
I.
demise because I like Benteke.
We saw the fist pumps when he wasn't on the field.
You hit a knee slide in a gravel parking lot when he got hurt.
Yes.
In a gravel parking lot. Well, I would
Brutal.
like to talk a little bit about Charlotte and Chicago because, like I said, Charlotte just dropped their fifth straight game, gentlemen. I was singing their praises at the start of this season. I believe that Charlotte were definitely Eastern Conference contenders. I was raving about their midfield, and it seems that chemistry problems have really invaded the team. And honestly, since that Zaha Snapchat written, they have not really put things together. I'm not going to say that's the cause of what's going on. Obviously, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It just is, it seems like they are tumbling and they don't have much to show for it. I'll quickly recap the game. Aguimang seems like a super positive player. He had a really great chance in the 33rd minute, but I just get good vibes from Aguimang. Just like he's the type of player you want in the locker room when you make a mistake. He's telling you to pick your head up and not, giving you a hard time about it. Just good vibes from him. I can see why he is still consistently on the U.S. men's national team, like prelim rosters and maybe on the team. Chris Brady, another U.S. men's national team prelim roster player, would make a great save on Wilfred Zaha after Zaha did Wilfred Zaha things. He still has got it in the locker, boys. Zaha is still a very quality player that will dice you up at any moment, at any place on the pitch. In the 41st minute, though, Jonathan Bamba would pick it up on that left flank, dribble to the top of the 18, cut inside toward the center of the box, and hit a curling effort toward the near post that took like a funny deflection on its way in, but Chris Kalina could not reach it. Pretty banger of a goal, and this is what Chicago Fire have been expecting from their signings, like Jonathan Bamba and Zinkernagel. In the 58th minute, Brian Gutierrez doesn't capitalize on one of the easiest tap-in chances you will ever see in the MLS, but on the preceding corner kick, the ball falls to him on the top of the box, and he produces just a little bit of magic and finesses it to the far post, tucks it home. He has looked incredible so far this season. He's getting looks from European clubs like Roma. He's getting call-ups to the U.S. men's national team. And to answer your question, Jacob, in the group chat, yes, I am feeling vindicated. If you haven't been on Brian Gutierrez watch, you should be now. Let's see. In the 63rd minute, Chicago builds up with purpose, and Andrew Gutman, one of the best attacking fullbacks in the league, would serve it across the box for Zinkernagel, and he just easily tucks it home. That is going to be somewhat of a lethal combination, boys. Andrew Gutman, like I said, he is one of the better attacking fullbacks in the league. Maybe not as good as Ryan Hollingshead. That is,
Up for debate.
Yeah.
That's up for debate, but I'm interested.
He's got quick feet. I saw him win. He won a penalty a couple weeks ago as well to help win a game. So he's got the clutch gene as well.
I remember him having a notable performance when Nashville worked Chicago. And I remember being like, okay, well, they don't have a lot to hang their hat on, but that bald outside back is pretty good.
I also, another thing, like, when you picture attacking outside backs, you think of like a slender, pacey, like, really gets it done technically. And then you look at Gutman, and it's like just this bald tank of a man who's not necessarily going to dribble around you 1v1, but he knows his role. He knows where the ball's going after he gets it. He plays it. His overlapping runs are fantastic. And then his ability to cross from outside of the box it's fun to watch.
Oh my God.
I'm on Gutman.
Yeah, he can serve a ball from almost anywhere on the left side of the field to any space in the box. It's delightful. Well, Jacob, speaking of attacking fullbacks that I really like in the league, I want to move into Orlando City and Inter Miami this week because I'm ready to put everyone on Alex Freeman watch. Someone on TikTok introduced me to him. He's the fullback for Orlando City. I believe he's 21 years old, but he's somewhat of that prototypical outside back that you just described, Jacob, except he's 6'2".
Yeah, that's a
He's
tree.
6'2". He's actually the son of a former NFL wide receiver, so it tracks. But oh my God, watching this kid play for Orlando City, you just know that he is destined for special things. Honestly, reminds me a lot of Anthony Robinson.
Ooh.
I'll say that Orlando City had big performances from all over the field, especially from unlikely candidates. Pedro Gallese stood on his head in the net. Javon Gervais, the center mid, I think he's like a box to box and French, as well as their center back Schlegel, all played very, very well for Orlando City. They kept Inter Miami to no goals, and that says quite a lot. Gallese made some great saves in the 21st minute with a big right hand, but the scoring would start in the 42nd minute when Luis Muriel would easily tuck it past Upstade. They got behind Miami's defense with a big kick from Gallese. I love a good goalkeeper assist, but this was the definition of Route 1, boys. I mean, pretty much from a goal kick, he picks up the ball, punts it, and Muriel gets on his horse and just tucks it away. Roadrunner stuff from Orlando City SC. If you are wondering how to beat Inter Miami, that's how to do it, in my opinion, is over the top.
Route 1.
Yeah. Don't play around with it. Don't give up the ball in a stupid area. Go over the top, get it out of there, and take care of business. Alex Freeman would get behind, but could not finish his dinner early on. If you want to go back and watch the Inter Miami game as Alex Freeman's introduction to you, don't be too critical because he does have many chances inside the box where he could have got on the score sheet. I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe the lights were a little too bright for a 21-year-old facing his first Floridian rivalry, but nonetheless, he looks amazing. He gets him behind easily and frankly can look like a winger at times. I haven't seen much on his 1v1 defending, but he's a really good player. Pasalic would bag Orlando's second with a bit of a howler from Ustade. Pasalic would just power home a half volley, and it kind of hits his hand. It hits Ustade's hands on the way through his legs. Not a great look.
Ethan's favorite MLS player of all time, Pasalic?
Look, I'm just saying, guys, if you have watched the City Boys podcast, you're aware of Marco Pasalic and his quality. This still came as no surprise, okay?
I honestly, watching this back, I thought Muriel was going to get on the end of it, just how bad he wanted the ball in that situation. But Pasalic, it was always him.
Yeah, kind of a poacher's goal there. Just, this laid up nicely for me. Don't mind if I do. And then Thor Hollison would tap home the third goal in the 92nd minute, the nail in the coffin. And one of the most shocking stats to me was that Inter Miami have now conceded 15 goals in their last 5 games.
Ooh.
That is damn near St. Louis City numbers, boys. That is not a title-winning defense by any stretch of the means. Obviously, they're missing their starting goalkeeper in Drake Callender, and I do think he would make a difference. Do I think it would be this big of a difference? Gentlemen, I am not so sure.
I don't think so, no.
I think, though, as far as, like, Inter Miami's profile goes, they're more of a boat race type team. They're more built to attack than they are to keep a clean sheet.
I'll agree with you about that. Yeah, they are for sure meant to. I think Inter Miami will find themselves in a lot of like 4-3, 3-2 kind of games. Yeah, I think you're right about that, Jacob.
Bandit
well, gentlemen, we got
a dream if you hear that.
We got 3 more games on the Eastern Conference side. I'm going to go back to the Hudson River Derby because surprisingly for me, Alonso Martinez absolutely carries New York City FC to 3 points here. He opens up the scoring with a worldie from around 25 out. He picks out the top corner and lets fly. Beautiful goal. That kind of it's sent. I think they call it Citi Field, but to me that's always just Yankee Stadium. I don't know the name of it. Just a banger of a goal. In the 18th minute, Coronel would make a great save on Alonso Martinez in a 1v1 situation, but Coronel was not finished on the highlight reel because in the 49th minute, his errant touch would give away the ball to Alonso Martinez. So he literally just picks it up in right on the top of the 18. Coronel tries to step. Martinez maintains his composure and finds Maxi Morales, who has even better composure to tuck the ball home. That's going to be a goal that Cornell wants to forget. Moving into probably the best rivalry of the weekend, in my opinion, other than El Trafico, the Hell is Real derby. We got started early in the 5th minute when Kevin Engel serves the ball into the box, and Patrick Schulte admittedly weakly punches the ball away. Sergio Santos, who I really was not aware of his game until this match, comes in, keeps it alive, heads the ball back to Evander, who bicycle kicks it across the 18-yard box, and it falls to Kevin Denke, who just taps it in within the 6-yard box. Like I said, one of the best assists you will see this season, and it had to give FC Cincinnati fans a lot of joy that their two marquee players have combined now for a goal. I will give Schulte some credit when he does make a big save in the 21st minute after great transition play from FC Cincinnati, but the first half in general was incredibly back and forth. Both teams would have their chances, and both keepers would come up big for their sides. Columbus started off the second half on the front foot and win a PK through Diego Rossi. He would easily slot it home. That's how Diego Rossi operates. Nothing too surprising on that front. I mentioned it a few weeks ago that I was not sure if Brandon Celentano was top of the East kind of level goalkeeper for FC Cincinnati. Well, boys, I have come to the conclusion that based on this match, he is. FC Cincinnati have a goalkeeper on their hands that can potentially carry them to the top of the Eastern Conference and maybe a good playoff run. I was really impressed by his game this week. Columbus had a lot of great chances in both halves, but Celentano did really well to keep them out. It was near post. It was good punches over the top, just an all-around great performance. To me, it still looks like Daniel Gazdag is still finding his feet for the Columbus Crew. I don't know if he scored a goal for them yet. I think that he's found himself in dangerous areas, gentlemen, but to me, he is just coming along slowly.
Yeah, it seems like it's the right player for the side, but it's just the output is not really there yet. He's starting to gel. He's looked so good from the first game he played, which I think was against St. Louis City.
Yep.
And against St. Louis City, he looked fine. He didn't look that great, but he created some chances. It looked like he would fit right at home in the Columbus attack. And we've seen sparks, but yeah, just that final consistency that we got from him in the Philly Union. We're just not looking at that sort of player just yet, but he's still in there.
That's the note that I had too, Grayson. Just a touch too slow, just a touch off. It's just not quite falling for Daniel Gazdag right now. You guys ready for the final game in the East?
Oh, yeah.
So the Canadian Classic, I was expecting a pretty heated rivalry. I was not expecting a 7-goal thriller with a red card. This just had it all. And it starts early on because I said that Montreal did not have a bad game, gentlemen. They had a disallowed goal in the 7th minute. So they got started off on the right foot considering their opponent, who also hasn't been that great this season. But I thought it boded well for them that their DP striker got to see the ball hit the back of the net early on. However, in the 12th minute, Sean Johnson makes a great save on I don't remember. I didn't write it down who had the header chance, but at this point Montreal are surely on the front foot and they look like they are just taking over the game. On the preceding kick from Sean Johnson, though, he kicks it out to his outside mid, and he kicks it over the top for Sean Spicer, who just gets in behind on a track race. Another Route 1 goal. Sean Spicer gets in behind and just clinically finishes it, puts Toronto FC up 1-0 pretty against a run of play, and I think this goal kind of took Montreal off guard, and from then on it was disaster in Montreal, to say the least. In the 20th minute, Waterman gets a red card for a bad tackle that breaks up a pretty obvious goal-scoring chance. I was shocked that they were pleading for not a red card. This could not have been more clear and obvious to me. The however referee shows a red card, and it was a good one. Bernadeschi honestly was a little bit reminiscent of Arjen Robben to me in this game, just constantly cutting in on that left foot. You know what he wants to do, you know what he's searching for, and still MLS defenders cannot defend it. His first chance would miss the goal, but it sets himself up because in the 30th minute, he gets in behind, and as the defender cuts off his left foot, he cuts onto his right foot and is able to tap it by the goalkeeper, making it 2-0. Honestly, Bernadeschi clearly loves this fixture. He had a hat trick last season, and in this fixture, he would get a brace.
Damn.
Just 120 minutes, 120 seconds later, Toronto would get their third goal of the first half and mercilessly go up 3-0 against 10-man Montreal. It was brutal scenes at this point. It was before halftime. Montreal had hit the woodwork 2 times for 2 good chances. It was just not enough. In the 54th minute, Bernadeschi would cut in onto his left foot, and this time just power curl it into the far left corner. That's like the best way I can describe it. For me, my goal of the week nomination. And boys, if Bernadeschi can keep up this kind of form, Toronto FC could be in very good shape. But wait, gentlemen, because in the 63rd minute, Brioni would get his goal. He did have one disallowed early on, like I said. It was just a tap in, nothing too crazy. But he does get a goal this game. It's not the worst result that it could have been for Montreal. Corbineau would get a brace as a substitute, scoring his goal in the 65th minute and again in the 90th minute. That's how the game would wrap up. Toronto take care of business against 10-man Montreal. Montreal continue to struggle as currently the worst team in the East. Toronto are going to feel good about this game, though, boys. This could be the spark that lights the fire up north.
I thought it was interesting. I'm looking at the lineups here on FotMob, and Waterman, the player that got a red card in the 21st minute of the game, finished with a match rating of 5.4. There were 4 players that played a full 90 that got a lower rating than him.
Oh.
Playing worse than someone who got a red card is tough.
Yeah. That would be their goalkeeper who got a 3. Their right back who had a 4.8. Their center midfield, Samuel Piet, with a 4.6. And then, Caden Clark came out in the 34th.
Yeah.
Minute with a 4.6 as well. So I'll give Caden Clark some,
Yeah,
some
he came out of the
there.
game for the red card sub, so they could try and fill in that hole in the back.
It was rough.
But that wraps up the Eastern Conference on my end, gentlemen. What did you say?
I was gonna say, do you mind if I rip through the table? Because it's honestly shaping up really nicely.
Please do.
Okay, so Philly and Cincy are basically tied for first, but Philadelphia in first place, Cincy second, both on 29 points. Columbus just underneath them on 27 points, so the Midwest coming in hot for the Eastern Conference, which is hilarious to say all in one sentence. Nashville just underneath Columbus on 24 points, so a whole 5 points behind first place, not too far off. Orlando tied with them on 24 points. Miami sliding down with 22 points in 6th place. New York City FC continue to rise up the table on 21 points. Charlotte skid brings them into 8th place with 19 points. Chicago, same amount of points, different trajectory though. Chicago going up the table, also on 19 points. New York Red Bulls, MLS Cup finalists last year, sitting in 10th place on 18th points. New England on 18 points in 11th. DC United 12th with 14 points. Toronto in 13th with 13 points. Atlanta, definitely fraud watch, 14th with 11 points. And then Montreal, an unfortunate and unhappy and rather deserving 7 points, find them in the very last place on the table.
Yeah, that Eastern table is pretty interesting. I think New York City, super surprising. The way I've been thinking about New York Red Bulls and Chicago. I feel like they would be higher up than New York. Same thing with the Revolution. The Revolution have been in such hot form recently, but they just had such a difficult start to the year that they're still trying to get out of that hole.
Well, the
But
Revs have climbed from 14th to 11th in,
yeah,
I want to say, 3 weeks.
yeah. So I think
Not
they're
to
they're still trending upwards. I think they still got some room to get up the table here. I think they could be sitting around eighth, seventh.
I mean, the thing is, 3 points separate them from seventh place in NYCFC. 4 points separate the New England Revolution and Inter Miami. That is unbelievable. So, just in 2 weeks, we could potentially see the Revs above Inter Miami, and the thought of that is despicable.
The thought of Miami not being in a playoff position is even more despicable.
They got some room. They got a little bit of protection there.
I will say the Eastern Conference is incredibly competitive right now. Only 10 points separate ninth place and first place, whereas in the Western Conference, oh, it's pretty much the same. 10 points. So never mind. It's the same. They're both looking pretty competitive.
That's the MLS. That's why we love it, you know. Sometimes we don't love it, but it is pretty entertaining. You know, anybody can win it. At this point, I don't really know. I'm sure that neither team in first place is going to win MLS Cup this year. You know, I feel like that's just how it happens. I don't think you know, you never know. Who knows? It could be the Revolution.
So real quickly, I'm gonna go vote on our goal of the weeks as you go through them.
I didn't even put them up. Did
Oh.
anybody put 'em
Oh,
up? So
that's awkward.
I didn't have time to do it.
We don't have a
So-
poll.
We'll put them up eventually, so y'all should vote when it's up, and I'll just post it on the story whenever we decide who wants to win. But
Embarrassing. It's almost like this should be our first time ever doing this. We're 13/14 episodes in. It is what it is.
it's whatever.
Well, any matches
Anyone
we're
have any
looking
final
forward
thoughts?
to?
Or... Ooh, good question.
Since we
You
don't
guys
have
know I
a
love a
goal of the week.
preview. Well, Open Cup is,
Wednesday.
yep, gonna have some good matches there. Mostly MLS games.
I got one. Orlando versus Portland, an interconference matchup. Two high-flying teams at the moment right now. That one's looking like a one to watch for me.
There you go.
I'm gonna say Charlotte and Columbus. I think Columbus will probably take care of business, but if you would have asked me about this game 3 weeks ago, I would have said that Charlotte at least have a good chance. So I do like that game a lot.
Ooh, a potentially brutal Sunday night soccer matchup of Cincinnati versus Atlanta in Atlanta. This could be a get back on track, light as fire underneath the ass game for Atlanta, but I don't see it shaking out that way. I would imagine Cincinnati takes that one.
I like Portland versus Orlando. I think that's going to be a great game.
Last game I'll say is Philly and Miami, because Miami will probably have a fire under their ass. I've never seen Leo Messi so passionate in the MLS, and frankly, I'm surprised, but happy that he is. And if I were on Philadelphia, I would be pretty shaking in my boots right now.
I'd be a little worried.
Shaking in my boots, sitting nicely in first place.
About to play a pissed off Messi, though.
Yeah, fair. Alrighty, well, I'm going to rip the outro then, fellas, so we can get to recording our regularly scheduled City Boys episode. Look for that episode coming out in the next coming days, but if you stayed this long, appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. Make sure you like and comment. Shout out to the people who are in the chat. Jeremy Clements, what's up to you, brother, if you're still here. We're also on Spotify as well, so go and drop a follow on Spotify, rate 5 stars as well. And most importantly, if you don't do any of that stuff, especially given the recent tragedies that have happened across the U.S. as it relates to weather, make sure you tell your mother and honestly at this point all your family members that you love them. Peace.